been a busy week for the Atlanta Hawks. Top pick in the draft Wednesday. Friday, agreeing to send Dejounte Murray to the Pelicans. He's coming off a career-best scoring average. Never quite meshed, though, with Trae Young in the backcourt. So he knew something was likely to happen. Instead, he gets to team up with Zion Williamson and Brandon Ingram, if the latter remains in New Orleans. This is, more than anything, tells you what kind of player Murray is. He made 3 go-ahead shots in the final 5 seconds of the fourth quarter in OT last season. That's big-time clutch performance, tied with Steph for the most in the NBA. That's amazing. This is incredible. That's great news for the Pels to get somebody like this. They were 0-22 last year, not a single win when trailing entering the fourth, and now a guy enters the roster that's come up big in the fourth and OT.
For context, this is why we have this man. We bring in our Adrian Wojnarowski. Look, how did this trade come together?
Nicole, this has been a conversation Atlanta and New Orleans has been having, really on and off for months. But for Atlanta, the Trae Young, Dejounte Murray partnership just never worked. 2 years of it. And simply it was easier to trade Dejounte Murray. There was more of a market with his contract and kind of where he is right now in this league. So for New Orleans, they see Murray as a player who could help them in fourth quarters, another offensive creator to go with C.J. McCollum, Zion Williamson. And I think for Atlanta, they were able to get a draft pick in 2025. They were out of that draft because of the Murray trade and what they gave up for San Antonio. This is one of the biggest drafts in years coming next year, and they are back in that draft with a pick.
So one of the things to, I think, also keep in mind in all of this is the fact that Brandon Ingram could very easily be going into the final year of his contract. So what are the dominoes that could potentially fall now?
Listen, Brandon Ingram, his agent, Jeff Schwartz, and the Pelicans, they'd like to get an extension done, but this is a new world right now with the salary cap, and the idea that they would be able to max out Brandon Ingram for a second time becomes difficult with the roster they have, the payroll they have. And so I think this is going to be a dance for a while. They've been open to looking at trades for Ingram. Their intent is to try to keep him, but I think there's still uncertainty right now about what Ingram's future is going to be in New Orleans.
Do not go far, because we have many more things to discuss, including what is up with Chris Paul and how might Paul George already have Lakers news. The guard, D'Angelo Russell, plans to exercise his $18.7 million option. He's going to return to the Lakers next season. He was third on the team last year, 18 points per game, had 18 games with 25 points or more, and 14 of them came after the first of the year. Also, Saturday is D-Day, or not D-Day, player options. LeBron headlines, obviously, this list. At the age of 39, he's coming off another All-NBA season, his 20th, which is the most all-time. If he opts in, he'll make more than $51 million, but let's also remember the Lakers did just draft Ronnie, a.k.a. LeBron's son. Also in L.A., but by way of the Clippers, Paul George. He shot 47% from the field and 41% on threes last season, both of them career highs. He also stayed healthy. He missed just 8 games. The Clippers can extend him up to 4 years for just north of $200 million. And then there are lots of questions remaining for the Warriors, from Klay Thompson to Chris Paul. Paul's deadline to make a guaranteed $30 million next year was supposed to be Friday. That has now been moved to Sunday, which gives everybody a little time to talk trade.
All right, Nicole, thank you very much. Woj is back. Let's just start with that report that Nicole just mentioned that you broke here on Chris Paul's contract guarantee being pushed back from Friday to Sunday. So according to your reporting, what's the reason for that shift?
It gives the Warriors 2 more days to see if there's a way they can include Chris Paul's contract in a trade. It's going to be difficult. At $30 million to take on his salary, maybe even as part of a bigger deal, that's a lot for any payroll. What is still a very likely scenario is that essentially they waive Chris Paul and he becomes a free agent and he would sign, elsewhere for much less than that. But they're not there yet. They've got 2 more days to see if they can find a trade involving Paul's contract.
Interesting. One of the very first things Mike Dunleavy Jr. did when he took over the Warriors last July was acquire Chris Paul. We'll wait to see what happens here this weekend. His teammate for now, Klay Thompson, what's your latest reporting there?
His future in Golden State is tenuous at best right now. There's not really been much communication with the Warriors. Klay Thompson, there's not been an offer yet. They've had the ability to make one here. they haven't. I think they're allowing Klay Thompson to go out into the marketplace and see what's there for him. And I think potentially what that's going to look like for Klay Thompson are possible sign and trade scenarios where teams can do a deal with Golden State. They could get an asset back, and they could find a way to do a multi-year deal with Klay Thompson. And there are teams who have the salary cap space to sign Thompson. But I think the dominoes will start to fall in free agency, perhaps beginning with Paul George, and then players like Klay Thompson follow suit. But I think his future in Golden State, again, very tenuous.
Yeah, 13 years, one franchise. It's going to be a sensitive situation. You invoked Paul George. Let's go there. He's got a Saturday deadline to exercise his player option. It's north of $48 million. What are you hearing on that front?
Well, this is really where free agency starts, is with Paul George. He's got to make that decision by tomorrow. If he declines the option, becomes a free agent, he can still re-sign with the Clippers, could do a multi-year deal. I think the reason he has not re-upped with the Clippers yet is they've not been willing to go to 4 years on a deal. And I think there's a belief that the marketplace holds 4-year deals for Paul George. Certainly probably the last big contract of his career. And listen, the Clippers value Paul George. But again, this is a new day in the NBA with the salary cap. And I think they got Kawhi Leonard on a 3-year deal that was below max. I think they'd like to do the same with Paul George. He's certainly going to have a lot of options out there. Tomorrow we'll know more about what route he starts to take heading into free agency.
You mentioned it. The guy that runs the Clippers, Lawrence Frank, has been pretty frank. There are some CBA issues with them, and we'll have to see how it all transpires. Last thing, a couple big names on the move already this week. You and Nicole talked about Dejounte Murray earlier in the program. Mikal Bridges, obviously that was a huge blockbuster midweek. What other player are teams keeping their eye on?
Lauri Markkanen in Utah, especially once Mikal Bridges in Brooklyn came off the board, went to the Knicks. Markkanen is another player on a team where teams are trying to get a sense of what direction the Jazz might want to go. The Jazz wanted to add players with Lauri Markkanen. They were a team that was in on Mikal Bridges. New York ultimately outbid them. But listen, I think in a perfect world, Utah wants to keep Lauri Markkanen. They could sign him to an extension later this summer, but teams are being aggressive in this marketplace. He is a significant, he's had a renaissance in his career with Will Hardy in Utah. And listen, I think it would take a great deal to pry him out of there. But Utah's got to listen, and there's no shortage of teams who have an interest in seeing just what it might take to get Markkanen out of Utah.
You mentioned a renaissance. His last 2 years of his 7-year career have been in Utah. They are not coincidentally the 2 best years by far of his NBA career. So he will be in demand, as will this man, all the way through July 6th. Woj,
hey, what's up, guys? Jag from Jaggy Sports here. Let's go over a lot of the stuff that I'm hearing. Paul George taking a meeting with Orlando Magic, 76ers, and the LA Clippers. But, if it's just those 3, he wants to stay on the West Coast close to his family. So maybe he does take a meeting with the Clippers, right? Maybe he does take a meeting with the 76ers and the Orlando Magic. However, don't be surprised if this guy resigns. Because if he just narrowed it down to those 3, it's probably the fact that, hey, he's going to stick with the Clippers. Because even though he's not getting the money that he wants from LA, right, he wants to be on the West Coast. So maybe he does that, maybe not, right? He's guaranteed to get that money in Orlando, though, for sure, 100%. So that is Paul George. LeBron James says that he will be willing to take a $16 million pay cut if they sign either James Harden, Jonas Valanciunas, or one Klay Thompson. Now, circle around Klay Thompson because he is no longer going to be part of the Golden State Warriors. He is saying goodbye, and that's it. A dynasty, a legacy, all gone. Because he doesn't want to play there no more. He feels that he is undervalued, underappreciated, and he's going to go to either LA Lakers, LA Clippers, or the Dallas Mavericks. So that is what I'm hearing. Now let's go over what transpired yesterday. Yesterday, Dejounte Murray and for the life of me, I don't understand how this happened. Atlanta Hawks only traded Dejounte Murray for Larry Nance Jr. and 2 first-round picks. That's it. That's nothing for one Dejounte Murray. And, you know, the entire world was like, what the hell? That's it? That's all we got, or that's all they got for Dejounte Murray. Atlanta Hawks could have got a lot more, but hey, they wanted this one. They wanted this deal done. And now it begs to, the question is, Trae Young. Now, is Trae Young going to get traded? Yeah, he's going to get traded. 100% he is. Because, you know, you are dealing with a younger team. You got so many picks now. You got like the first rounder. And if I'm Trae Young, I'm not going to play with rookies anymore. I want a championship. So look for Trae Young to get traded. All signs point towards San Antonio Spurs, because it was the Lakers, but he is no longer part of Clutch Sports. So therefore, you know, Clutch Sports pretty much runs LA. So that is no longer the case. Trae Young is going to be most likely, if he's going to get traded, to the San Antonio Spurs. Now, let's move on to the Pelicans. New Orleans Pelicans look damn good on paper. Look very, very good on paper. And, you know, at the end of the day, it's kind of like Zion Williamson, CJ McCollum, Brandon Ingram, Dejounte Murray. The list goes on, right? And they have their all role players here and there. But the question is, Brandon Ingram, they are not offering him a max contract, right? They're not offering him a max contract. He's not going to sign, so he will be a UFA as of next year. So right now, look for Brandon Ingram to get traded. That is not going to happen until Paul George signs. And the reason is, Paul George is in the mix for the 76ers. Paul George is in the mix for the 76ers. If, let's just say, Clippers got him, Paul George, look for Brandon Ingram the Pelicans and 76ers to make a very, very fast deal, because 76ers have a lot of money to spend. They do. They have a lot of money to spend. They have the cap space, so they need another star. They need another star, and look for Brandon Ingram to be that star. But at the end of the day, it's kind of like, you know, Brandon Ingram is also in play for Sacramento and a couple of other teams here and there. Sacramento Kings need another superstar. Because De'Aaron Fox of the Sacramento Kings will not sign an extension until he sees the vision for the Sacramento Kings. So if he doesn't sign an extension, is he the next person on the trade block? So there's so many pieces in play here. Paul George is holding up everything. Once he signs, Brandon Ingram's gonna get traded somewhere. If he gets traded somewhere, let's just say if it's Sacramento, then De'Aaron Fox signs that contract, because obviously it's Brandon Ingram, right? If Brandon Ingram gets traded to the 76ers, well, then De'Aaron Fox is like, hey, who else are you guys going to get? If you're not going to get anyone, I'm not going to sign. So leave me as a UFA as of next year. Sacramento sees that, and they're going to say, okay, if that's the case, we're trading you. We're not going to let you walk for free, right? So there's so many things in play, and you know, it's crazy the amount of rumors that you hear right now, and they're only going to ramp up. But then again, this is only once a year, right? Every NBA fan loves this season. Every NBA fan loves this date, July 1st. You know, what could you ask, right? You have so much stuff going on. trades here and there. I don't even think Woj or Sham sleeps during this time. So look out for a lot of deals and yeah, look for a lot of signings. Leave a comment in the comment section. Tell me what you guys think. Is Brandon Ingram going to become a 76er? Is Paul George going to become a 76er or a Clipper? Is De'Aaron Fox on the move? Who knows? Leave a comment in the comment section. As always, Jag from Jaggy Sports.